Hello and welcome to Next 2.0 on WQLN PBS NPR. I am your host, Marcus Atkinson. If you get an opportunity to go to Facebook and like the page, you can follow us on Instagram at 814NEXT. There you can find events and clips about what's going on in our community. Thank you for listening to our show. We are here at the Jefferson Society. And there's a very important presentation going on by Rock Copeland from County Council. And he is breaking down the budget for the county executive. This has been an issue on so many impasses throughout his tenure as county executive, and he makes constant reference to it. Obviously, a lot of people on county council are making reference to it because this is the bread and butter, if you will, of the job. How are tax dollars being spent? How are dollars being dispersed that have come in from other sources? And it is at the epicenter of this current election cycle. And so Rock Copeland wanted to slow down for just long enough to really lean into these line items and show each and every person at the presentation what it means. And so you can watch this presentation on our Facebook page with 814NEXT. If you get an opportunity, some of these things that you hear, it may be hard to kind of catch on to a completely minus the visual. I'm almost positive it'll be on the Facebook page for County Council as well. Do your research on that. But be that as it may, I want you to really lean in and listen to this presentation as Rock breaks down the numbers. Very fascinating. It's about an hour long. And there are a lot of numbers. And so I just want to let you know that up front. Some people aren't necessarily good with hearing numbers, but if you are interested in what is going on with your tax dollars, this is a presentation that I think you will enjoy. And so without further ado, I'll pass it over to Rock and let you hear what he's saying. And hopefully you'll get as much out of it as we did. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Perry, for that wonderful introduction. It's really nice to have everybody in this room today, to have this many people energized and mobilized to see what's in this budget. A lot of people don't think about the single largest governmental body within 120 miles, the largest form of functioning government that we have right now, with the federal being shut down and the state not having a budget. We're the largest form of government that is functional right now. And our budget is massive, and it has such meaningful impacts on our community. And I really wanted to give you a glimpse into what I've learned over the last 14 days of trying to understand this budget. But first, let's do a little bit of civics and try to understand this budget. And first, how it's made, because the process is really important. What we have today is a budget proposal. The county executive has to propose a budget prior to October 1st. It's actually in parlance, it comes to us on October 1st. And then after that, County Council will have a series of budget hearings where we get to hear from the public. I believe Terry and I will be working on getting those dates out very soon. And then after that, we'll go through a series of meetings and deliberate over what we believe should be done, not be done. And no later than December 1st, County Council is required to adopt a budget, or this one becomes law. And so we're on a clock, and we've got to spend a lot of time getting through this. Within 3 days, we have to deliver that adopted budget to the executive. He may veto anything or reduce anything contained within it. And within 10 days, we would have to do a veto override to settle those questions. And that is how a budget is born, and it goes into place on the new year, January 1st. We're here in the process. And my intention is to give you some insight as to what I'm seeing in this budget, so that when we get here for the budget hearings, that you guys are educated and know what's in this thing. And don't just trust me. Go look at the document. Go read it. Go find out what I'm saying is true. And come speak to us and tell us about what your priorities are. So how is the budget structured? First and most important thing to understand about county government, we are an arm of the state. We have mandated services from the state. Most people tend to think about this part here, the taxes that come down into the county, right? Your property taxes. But your taxes also you pay to the state. Some portion of those taxes are paid to us to perform services. Sometimes the federal government pays us directly, maybe for some services, primarily more for grants. And sometimes money starts at the state or Fed, stops over at the state, and then it comes into our coffers. And the surprising thing that you'll find is that our budget is only supported 18% by local property taxes. We're hyper-focused about what we pay at the local level, but there's a whole big piece of that pie that is not included in that. And it's kind of a nebulous concept, the budget. What is it? Well, it's actually 18 budgets. We organize our budget into 18 separate funds. Each of them's fully self-contained, its own ordinance, it's balanced on its own. And then we also approve the budget for the community college, although that's developed by their board. And so federal and state dollars flow into each one of these budgets independently, right? And I've got 3 arrows here for simplicity, but to most of these funds, we have state and federal dollars flowing in. And your local property taxes go here, what we call the general fund. This is where people tend to focus, the most important part, the administrative components of the county. And money flows out of the general fund into these other funds. Not all of them, but most of them, to support the local match. So let's say we pay 20% of OCY. So we've got to pony up that 20% in order to get that state revenue. Sometimes money flows out of a different fund, like our gaming fund, which pays some into the general fund and also supports separate quasi-governmental organizations such as the Land Bank and ECRA. Confusingly, sometimes money flows out of the general fund, goes to other funds, mingles with state and federal dollars, and then that money flows back to the general fund to pay for shared services, finance, IT, administration, custodial operations. And further within the general fund, you'll find in each of these funds, more so the general fund, you have separate departments in there. So we have county council, the county executive, the solicitor, the sheriff. And so it's a lot more complex than just a budget. And what you'll find sometimes, the money flow can be a little bit confusing. Like the planning fund gets money from American Rescue, gaming, state, fed, gets fees collected by the clerk of records, and also is supported by our local real estate taxes. But then they pay back into the general fund for administration, finance, and information technology. This might seem confusing, but it's not. The only point that I'm trying to make here is that all of these parts are interconnected, and a change in one place affects another place. And this is part of our budget review to understand that if I tinker over here, that has an effect over here. And it also helps to explain the overall changes of this budget. What are we trying to do in the budget process? In my view, we're trying to make decisions about policy priorities. I think that's what Perry referred to in terms of a moral document, who we are prioritizing, what services we prioritize. I'm really keen to make decisions to ensure our financial health, because if we bankrupt government today, it doesn't deliver services tomorrow. So I have an obligation to the future to make sure that we're on good standing. I focus a lot on examining our history because it helps us plan for the future. What has happened before is a really good roadmap for the kinds of things we might see. We need to ensure that services are efficiently delivered. It's very important. And yes, we want to mitigate tax burden because it's hard, right? I mean, especially for retirees living on fixed income, we are intimately knowledgeable of the effects of tax increases. And so we're really trying to mitigate that burden. But I tend to think of this as trying to discover the story told by thousands of line items in this budget. I'm trying to determine the story that I want to write, and I'm trying to figure out how to disseminate that to the public. That's what we're here to do today. So, what's the county executive's story about this budget? What is being said that it does? He highlights 5 points in his opening letter, says that we are prioritizing services in these areas. First being public safety and emergency services, affordable housing and homeless prevention, infrastructure and capital projects, human services and health, economic and workforce development. Please keep these points in mind as we go through these budgets. He also likes to reference the top line numbers because these are what's sexy, right? Like, is the budget going up or is it going down? It's going down from $582 million to $549 million. He's colloquially described that as a $30 million cut. That's not math. The general fund is down from 139 to 135, and taxes are flat. There's an inherent contradiction here, because we have to pass a balanced budget, right? We cannot raise a single dollar more than is not met with an expense on the other side. It has to be balanced. So taxes are flat. We are paying the same amount of taxes today, but the budget is going down. There's something deeper to this story. These are not helpful facts. I understand that people, our property tax staying the same, this is good. It does not tell you anything about the health of our budget. Here's a little disclaimer. There's going to be lots of numbers just flying by. And you're going to feel compelled to read each one. I'm going to try really hard to highlight the number that I'm talking about so that it has the importance there. The county executive has spent a lot of time talking about what's in this budget, but he's never been asked to point to the line item that supports what he's saying. And I really wanted to demonstrate to you that this is founded on the numbers that are within the pages of this document, numbers that I didn't put there. I'm going to show you those numbers, and yes, you're going to hear some opinions about what I think that means. Form your own opinion, please. Also, any slide where you see this icon is where you cannot go to any 2 consecutive pages of the budget to find this information. Sometimes it means I'm going to 30 different pages throughout the 639 pages. Sometimes I'm referring to past audits. So I'm pulling information from a variety of sources. My phone number and email will be at the end. Please reach out to me. Ask me to validate these numbers, okay? So here's the story told by the line items in the budget, in my opinion. I like to try to think in the extreme macro, and this is as extreme as you can get. There's very few data points. I know you guys, this graph doesn't mean much to you, okay? But I'm going to tell you, all of the items over here are funds or administrative components that are losing funding. This is shown by percentage. It says nothing about the overall size of the individual budget. Some of these are much larger than the others, but this is just a percentage change in that budget. And all the items over here are obviously increasing in size. And I provided you with a single data point. Different colors, right? There are more red bars on this side than there are red bars on that side. There are more blue bars on this side than there are blue bars on this side. The blue bars are administrative components that are under control of the county executive. The red bars are anything controlled by another elected official. Extreme macro. Let's step in a little closer and figure out what some of these changes are, because it gets concerning when you start identifying what some of these bars are. The biggest winner in this budget by percentage of growth, 29%, is the solicitor for the county. The biggest loser by a mile is public health. It is a little curious that county council's over here. In truth, a large part of this is a change in our election integrity funding. Last year we had a real big election, so we had a lot of money left over, right? Our bar would be about here. Let's take a closer look. These are all the separate funds that are in our budget. You cannot go to a single page in this document and see the total. The only total that you actually see is in the county executive's letter. And I admit there might be some mistake here because I can't come to the exact total that he has. I'm coming up with 548 million. He says 545. I'm not sure which number he's counting or not counting, or maybe I'm counting something that he's not. But let's step into this because we're losing $30 million. How did that happen? Well, the biggest driver of that is Erie County Care Management. This is a separate corporation that had political control, and we did approve their budget, but other than as a customer to Erie County Care Management, we didn't directly contribute tax dollars to them. They were spun off this year in response to some changes in the state. So $20 million off the top is ECCM, a structural change to the budget. American Rescue Plan, we're out. The smallest amount that we have left over is the interest income that we've earned over time. And so that's a big drop in spending. The gaming fund, I hate this one. Last year, the county executive attempted to spend all $14 million of revenue that we take in. 7 of that comes off the top and goes to ECRA and the land bank. But he was also trying to empty out the entire bank account. Did you guys notice an unusual number of check presentations this year? Right? So council attempted to stop this emptying of the bank account. It's part of our lawsuit right now. He's been prevented from spending a lot of this money. So it looks like a big drop. It's actually a return to normal-ish. Debt service fund goes down 77%. We've paid off debt. We paid off bonds. Hooray. This is awesome. It's a timing thing, right? You got a debt schedule that you're paying off, and so we're down $5 million. But you guys remember how these things are interconnected. That payment from the debt service fund comes from the general fund, and we have a corresponding decrease in the general fund, mostly because of debt service being gone. A lot of that has been eaten up by increases in other areas, but you can see it's a 2x multiplier. $5 million drop in debt service is a $5 million drop in the general fund. A couple of the other big drops, planning and community fund. This thing fluctuates wildly, and it's mostly pass-through money. Act 89 numbers changed. It's not an area of concern. I have inaccurately criticized this particular department for increases in funding. And as I've gotten closer to the subject matter, I've kind of realized that ebb and flow doesn't matter as much. Public health fund goes down 29%. That's the first thing that we've hit that's actually like, wait a minute, what's going on there? So the $30 million difference, as the county executive talks about, is mostly structural changes to the budget, a loss of the ARPA funding, a change in our debt service that has a 2x multiplier, and a loss of upstream funding, which we're going to get into. So that top line spending difference is actually not real. Here's the story told by the budget according to the general fund. This is the most important area where I told you guys pays off into other places. Miscellaneous taxes, property taxes, flat. Slight growth, new buildings, new assessments. But then grant revenue is down 10% across the board throughout the entire general fund. We earn interest income on that money when it sits in our bank account. We're losing a lot there, 18%. Other income, very small contribution, but continues the trend that we're losing a lot of our other sources of income. This one, I told you about the gaming lawsuits, right? The county executive tried to double count revenue coming from the gaming fund, which all of the numbers here are like according to their story. Does that make sense? So the reporting looks a little wonky in some areas. You got to know the details. That is not double counting gaming. So you can see grant revenue used to support 5% of our budget. That goes down to 4%. And our taxes are now going up, not going up, but supporting a larger share of the budget, which I think is important. And in my view, it's the start of a concerning trend. Here are our local share contributions. What percentage of that budget do we pay for with local property taxes? And a lot of them are up. We are at 22 cents on the dollar spent in public safety, now goes to 27 cents on the dollar. Domestic relations up a little bit. I misspelled over here, ignore that. The planning fund, we are paying a little bit more, but that's just because, as a percentage of budget, but it's just because they have less pass-through dollars. But this one is concerning. The public health fund, we used to pay 17% of their budget, and that's going up to 26%. We're paying a considerable amount more for our public health. The opposite is true of Pleasant Ridge Manor, and this is important. We're going to give them the same amount of money, proposed, as we did last year. Last year, that represented 2% of their operating income. This year, that same number is 1%. In 2022, we contributed 4% to their operating income. That's important to note because that's coming up a lot as a hot topic. There's criticism that Pleasant Ridge is not doing well financially. If you want to know why they're not doing well financially, that's it. And of course, the debt service fund's going down a lot. So let's get into some examples of that concerning trend. Here we have a macro view of the public health department, and we can see 39% decline in grant revenue. That represents state and federal funding. 39% drop in grant revenue. That means this department's going to go down about 29% in size. We're paying 6% more. They get a larger amount of money to support their services. We're paying more to receive what in effect is very likely a lower level of service. Also as part of this, wages used to be 58% of that budget, and that now goes to 70% of the overall budget just pays to have the people in the chairs. And believe me, they're the most important people. But when you're starting to figure out what kind of decisions you want to make, you need to make some considerations. And here's a lot of our grants that we're losing. ELC, this is like a laboratory support. That was a COVID program where we were enabling counties to have rapid testing, contact tracing, all that good COVID stuff. That does sunset in July, and it makes June or July, and it makes sense that that's going down. But immunization goes down by 81%. This is not just COVID. This is MMR. This is education. This is talking to parents about getting their kids vaccinated. 81% of our revenue is going away. Problem, health preparedness. God forbid we ever have another pandemic, because our ability to respond rapidly is going to change. Nurse family, this is maternal health. We lost that entirely. And health improvement down by 66%. And I started thinking, is this just a post-COVID retraction? It makes sense that this department would shrink in size. We're not in the middle of a pandemic. It makes sense, right? Problem, this budget is smaller than it has been in 2019 or 2020. This is not a post-COVID retraction. It's a retraction beyond where we were in capabilities before COVID. Adjusted for inflation, which is not fair for the government. If your government grew at the same speed of inflation, it would be a major problem. But adjusted for inflation, this is $2 million smaller than it was in 2019. Here's another example. Public safety. You see, ARPA was a major contributor to their budget last year. We're losing 39% of that because we don't have ARPA anymore. Fund balance appropriated. Joe, don't kill me. I'm going to say savings account. I know it's operational capital, but you know, they have a separate bank account where money that was unspent in previous years lives, and it helps you pay the bills in the interim while you wait for other revenues to come in. That's operational capital. Is that right, Joe? Did I do good with that? The fund balance appropriated is going way down, 33%. And something's going on there. And you can see that this is the only department still carrying debt service, so we've got some needs there. The general fund transfer for a department that's staying roughly the same size, it grows by 4%. We're contributing 39% more. This is a department that is effectively stagnant, right? We paid wage increases. We're going to pay 39% more for that next year. And that is because the public safety fund balance has been exhausted over the years. The last 4 years, we have bankrupted this fund. And now that bill's still coming due and we got to pay it. There's got to be some bright spots in this budget, right? Let's get some examples. Domestic relations, grant funding is flat. Yeah, grant funding is flat. That seems good. Department is growing moderately. Mostly wages, 3% increase. Seems okay, right? We're going to pay 9% more. The department grew by 3%, and we're going to pay 9% more to support this. Because it turns out when your revenue from other sources doesn't increase, that bill's only on you. And since you pay a small part of it, that's a bigger increase, right? This is an anomaly. A line item moved from here to here. You can get 221%. What's going on there? Not a story. It's just $80,000 moved between the lines. Here's another area. It should be a really bright spot. 73% increase in grant revenue for the public defender. We usually don't have any grant revenue in the public defender's office. Last year, the first time in history that Pennsylvania contributed to our constitutional obligation to provide for public defense for indigent people. $7.5 million between 67 counties. Let's not celebrate too much. And it could only be used to expand services that you don't already have. You can't just pay just to contribute to your operations. You had to do something new. We're hiring a bunch of paralegals to help all of the public defenders because they have a really big workload, some as many as 600 cases a year. And yet, this department is going down in overall size. We found new revenue, we've added new expenses, and it still goes down. And you take that revenue and expense out, they match. This department is actually still contracting 6.53%. It's an area where we found new revenue and it's still getting smaller. The other story told by the budget, details matter. Last year, I was really hopping mad. I don't know if you guys saw me on the news. The numbers in the budget just didn't add up. The math was wrong. And I pointed them out, and they're like, oh, he's lying. He doesn't know what he's doing. I was like, I can add 5 numbers together. And this year, the budget's a little better. It is. I'll give the finance office credit. They responded to my pressure. But there's still some concerns here. Here we have a line, or a whole category going from $1,500 last year, small, goes down to $1,000. That's a 98% increase. Math. Council members do have a bit of a habit of going through the line items and looking for big jumps in percentages or decreases in percentages. It gives you the outliers, right? Where's big change happening? We still can't trust the numbers that are in the budget. They add up, but there's still some stuff in here that's wonky. Wages and fringes are flat this year. This is great. This is great. We've had a troubling trend in county government. In the general fund, 2021, we paid $51 million for wages. We had 8% increases year over year, has exploded to $62 million. It's probably a good thing that our wages are flat. But we give everybody a 3% increase across the board. We give everybody a raise every year. We should, right? How is it possible that we give everybody a 3% increase and the wages are flat? Well, here we have purchasing, which is a major problem, where they've got an 11% increase. Just last year, I think the proposal was to give somebody a 22% increase or something obnoxious like that. Still going up significantly, but after that 11% increases, when you add in the fringes, the benefits, retirement, prescriptions, all that stuff, it's flat. It's down just slightly. And all of us are looking at this like scratching our heads, like, how is that possible? Retirement costs are going up, our contributions going up. It just doesn't make any sense. And I go to the administration, I'm like, what is going on here? And they're like, oh, numbers are right, numbers are right, numbers are right. Okay. I asked the controller what the problem was. Turns out it was a mistake last year. That budget had a lot of mistakes in it last year, and we didn't see this one. And so a blessing that a mistake last year seems to be driving that the administration gets the budget flat. A lot of repeat behavior in this budget. Council eliminated these two positions last year, public information officer, administrative assistant. If you disagree with that on policy, we can have that conversation. But council did remove these positions. We're in a lawsuit over these positions, and they appear in the new budget. A whole new department. We famously eliminated economic development last year. We're in a lawsuit over it. A firm council majority does not feel that this should be a standalone department. It's back. Oh, but he also, for the third year in a row, has proposed the elimination of the HRC. In 2023, under the leadership of Brian Schenk, council added this back in. It was vetoed. It was overrode by council. 2024, the same thing happened again. And for the third year in a row, we're going to have this fight. There's also a repeat behavior of a lack of conversation about what's going on in this budget. It just gets dropped on our lap on October 1st, and we're left to figure out what it means. We're not having meaningful conversations about our losses of revenue and what they mean. We don't have any idea as to what their goals and objectives are. They don't communicate that. And they appear to be gearing up for more. You guys are very aware of a lot of lawsuits. There are some litigants in this room. It's not just council. That's actually a small amount of our lawsuits. We have employees suing us, just all over lawsuits. The administration acknowledges that in the notes that support their line item. They say they've had a high influx of lawsuits. And in fact, yes, they're budgeting a 100% increase to legal services. That means double, $75,000, $150,000. And then fees and services, this is just small, but it's comical, a 1,900% increase. Like, what is that? And so the department grows by 29%. Last night I introduced an ordinance because this department is over budget this year. They're spending more than they've been appropriated. That's illegal. There's a lot of methods that the county executive can use to fund a department. I've asked him to exercise his authority to do so. He just needs our approval. We're ready to approve it. And then this is really important to me. Deprioritize infrastructure. Capital outlay, that's where you're paying for hard equipment, right? Computers, but buildings, roofs, things like that. 21% decline in capital outlay. Every year, oh, no, I'm jumping ahead. Last year, it was a big controversy that the county executive wanted to use revenue obtained from the detainment of ICE detainees, say that word again, and he wanted to use that money to pay for prison boilers. And council over the last 3 years has said, hey, if we have these major capital projects, they need to be in the budget. We don't want to just take it from the savings account. In the middle of the year, like we want to plan for these purchases, right? And last year we approved a $2 million roof. Fine, we need a roof. But we put our foot down. We said, no, this is not an emergency. Put it in your budget. Is it in the budget? No, it's not. Every year, the county executive proposes a 3-year plan, and in the beginning of that, there's a list of projects that we need, right? Last year, it was 28 projects totaling $11.5 million of pretty critical infrastructure projects. We tackled one last year, the $2 million prison roof. That really hasn't gone well. We also have some needs in IT. All of the information that we store on our computers is your information, right? The citizens of Erie, it's really important that we keep that information secure, that we don't have data breaches and such. And it's okay, but it's not great. Courts IT, who we have a really good relationship with, we just moved into their services out from the administration, has said we need to spend today $505,000 to upgrade our IT infrastructure, or it will make us vulnerable. It wasn't like over 3 years. It wasn't like by 2030. It was like, we need to buy this now. And they proposed it in their budget. They requested $635,000. The county executive said no, and they're flat, roughly. When we went to IT for admin, we had their meeting. I said, don't you guys have the same infrastructure needs that they do? You guys do the same thing? And they said, yeah, we do. We put it in the notes. A little easier to read. They requested $545,000 of infrastructure. But wait a minute, they requested it? This is a challenge, because council, we need to see the true story of what a department's requesting. It's okay if the county executive says no and he disagrees, but we need to have a faithful story told to us about what they actually need. We also passed a resolution just recently. It's been over 100 days since Marcello Woodard passed away. We acknowledged his death. We directed all of our county-affiliated law enforcement to make them stop and think and let's make sure we do a policy review. And we said the one thing that we can really do as county council is put a body camera on every law enforcement personnel. And we've been pretty loud about this. It's not in our budget. And so I've identified $1.7 million of infrastructure projects that need to happen today, not including that list of 11.5 million projects. And yet capital outlay is down 21%. The last story told, I think this is the last story. I'll keep saying that. It's a habit. County executive has a habit. The last 3 years, we've spent roughly $4 million a year from the fund balance. That was after a record tax increase of $9 million that our debt spending went up. We raised our revenues and we still spent more than we had. This was why we had $52 million of once-in-a-lifetime injection from the federal government. This is a problem. This is a disturbing trend. And if you look at the fund balances of all of the funds still in our system, does not include ECCM, because they're not part of us anymore. December 31st, 2021, he was handed bank accounts totaling $109 million. That is down almost $8 million. It's not just the general fund that's been depleted. That people talk a lot about that, but it's all the funds. All the funds. And the county executive's still gotten really addicted to the check presentations. During ARPA, we were flush with cash and we were able to give it out to other people. And still in this budget, the check presentations must continue. $1.7 million from municipal gap, EMS, and the municipal gap, also from the little bit of interest income that we have left over from ARPA. We got a spending problem. We got a major spending problem. How can I justify deficit spending $4 million and hand out 1.7? And this is what really ticks me off about it. This gets me fired up, because I'm okay with giving money to these kinds of purposes if it's utilized. Year after year, we've budgeted large dollar amounts under the municipal gap and under EMS, And at the end of each year, you can see only a small fraction of that money had ever been spent, because the big deal that he wanted to do was announce that he was making the investment and hold them over till the next year. And the next year, last year, they were coming to us, release this money. And I told him, I said, the money's there. It's already in the budget. He could cut you a check today. But he wants to give it out in an election year. Why should I continue to make these investments when the money just isn't spent? All right, so the county executive story: public safety, affordable housing, infrastructure, human services, economic development. Let's break those down. Public safety, yes, we are paying 39% more for public safety. It stays essentially the same. We bankrupted them. It's hard to say that your budget prioritizes public safety when you bankrupted it. Affordable housing and homeless prevention. Council loves this. Let's go. Let's do this. The same kind of investments that we had last year for community resilience, $1 million, it's not in this budget. One area that we do contribute to homeless assistance through grants, that's not our money, goes down by almost $400,000. It's hard to say that we're doing anything for homeless prevention. In fact, we didn't do anything this year. The $1 million that we set aside, that we agreed, right, Terry? We're on board. $1 million, we said, go help the homeless. We didn't spend a dime. Infrastructure and capital projects, down 21%. How are you investing in infrastructure and capital projects? You're investing in other people's projects, but not the ones at home. Human services and health. Yeah, we're giving them 6% more. Maybe the county executive is backstopping it. Maybe we're giving a larger increase so that we can continue to pay the wages and keep the people. Maybe. But it's not an honest conversation, is it? Before this conversation, you weren't aware that the health department is being I don't even say the word, emaciated. And we're not having an honest conversation about what's happening upstream of us at the state and the Fed. What are those effects? And I've asked. It's fine. We're good. No big changes. We got plenty of money. This is a problem. Economic and workforce development. That is the county executive's big thing, right? We're eliminating the Youth Summer Jobs Program. We didn't inform any of our partners in this effort. GCAC, Gaming Revenue Authority, Community Foundation, they didn't know. The program didn't know they were being defunded. We've never been given a reason for why it's been defunded, but it's being defunded. It's hard to say that you are contributing to workforce development when you have eliminated an entire program. A program that honestly helps people in some tough spots. So the county executive story isn't adding up. We've decreased $30 million of spending. Property taxes are flat. I said that that was a contradiction, right? And we know that the $30 million reduction in spending is because of structural changes, loss of ARPA, debt service schedule, 2X, loss of upstream funding, and exhausted fund balances. Property taxes are flat, but the local share, the amount that you pay in your property taxes to perform these services is going up. In many cases, we're paying for shrinking services, paying more for shrinking services, and we're cutting other areas of the budget to offset those costs. In short, the county executive story of this budget is a fairy tale. And I know that that's a real political statement, right? But I mean, look at the numbers on the piece of paper. This is the story that I'm seeing in the line items. Concerning decline in grant revenue from other sources. We're increasingly reliant on our local taxes. The only saving grace of this budget, what makes it balance, is a decrease in the debt service. It's a good thing, but it's the only saving grace. We're often paying more. Still, concerning details of the budget, they're inexplicably inaccurate. It seems that the executive is intent on having the same fights that we had last year. It's exhausting. There are no meaningful conversations to resolve these differences. The solicitor's budget absolutely indicates that they are, gearing up, getting ready to go. County infrastructure is completely ignored, and the spending habits are mostly unchanged. We're here. Well, soon to be. I hope that there's people watching on Facebook Live. I hope that people watch Marcus's presentation online. Come talk to us. Tell us what you think is important. It matters. You guys have a voice, right? Council really appreciates when you guys come and advocate to us. It means a lot. Nothing's worse than a 12-minute meeting where we're making important decisions and not a person's there. Here's my priorities. This is what I would advocate for. The Erie County Human Relations Commission, which deserves its own presentation on its own, must be funded. We fought this battle for 2 years in a row, and we're going to fight it again. We need honesty from the administration on the future of our public health. I'm really advocating for youth summer jobs and the Booker T. Washington Center, which was also defunded. We need to have planned investment in our infrastructure before it costs us more later. We need a budget that prioritizes people and services. And we need to end the games. And I know this sounds like a very political speech, but I believe this is very heartfelt. We need to get past this. We need to focus on governance. I have some QR codes here for the County Council webpage where you can find all that information. I'm really in love with this. We have a County Council Facebook now, and we're putting out all kinds of really interesting information about the elections, transparency.
That's all for our show today. Tune in next time for more discussion and analysis with local and national guests. Remember that Next 2.0 streams on Fridays on all major podcast platforms and the fourth Sunday of the month at 4 p.m. on WQLN PBS NPR, which is 91.3 FM. If you want to leave a message, comment, or suggestion for the show, call the Next hotline at 814-240-8816. We look forward to hearing from you. I am Marcus Atkinson. Come and join us again so that you can hear about what's next for our communities and our democracy. Peace.